Tonight, we're going to talk about the 3 most likely destinations for Jimmy Garoppolo. We know he's going to get traded at the end of the season. The question is, where's he going to go and how much will the Niners get in return? We're going to talk about it and get into it right frackin' now. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty Sports Talks. It's your boy Shifty. This one's going out to Niner fans, near, far, NFL fans, sports fans. You're all welcome here. Tonight, we are talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to talk about the top 3 destinations of where I think he could go. And then we're going to talk about what the Niners might get in return when they trade him away. I think it's fair to say that as soon as the 49ers did that trade up to the 3rd overall spot and ultimately drafted Trey Lance, we knew that Garoppolo's time with the 49ers was coming to an end pretty soon. Kind of thinking that we're going to follow the Kansas City Chiefs formula where you have that veteran guy and you have a team that can win now. You have that veteran guy who can, maybe take you to like the playoffs, which hopefully is what we're going to do this year. And then you also have that young, quarterback with a ton of potential through the roof. Let him sit for a year, learn the offense, learn the NFL game, and then unleash him next year. And hopefully we have the same success as Kansas City has had with Pat Mahomes. So, Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, let's say if you're watching this video and you are a fan of a team that might be looking for a quarterback next year and might be on the short list of teams that could be looking for a guy like Jimmy G. Let me tell you really quick what I think of Jimmy Garoppolo, being a 49er fan and seeing him play with the team for the last number of years. His record with the 49ers is phenomenal. It's 28-12. When we first acquired him, the first 5 games that he played with the Niners, won all 5, looked great. The next season got hurt week 3. Season after that was the season that we went to the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say that Jimmy Garoppolo was the main reason for that, but I think he played pretty darn well enough to get to the Super Bowl and almost win it, which I still think about. Last season, 2020, he was hurt for most of it and didn't really play much. And then this season, he's been pretty darn solid. His record this year as a starter is 6-4, so not great, not amazing, but not terrible either. Definitely a serviceable quarterback. And personally, what I think of Jimmy G is that I think he's like above a game manager. Is he a franchise guy? No. But he's a guy who is loved in the locker room. Players play for him. There's a reason why, when people talk down about Jimmy G, it's like, oh, he's not that good. I'm like, look at Kyle Shanahan's record with Jimmy Garoppolo and look at his record with any other quarterback. Beathard, Nick Mullins, Brian Hoyer, even the one game with Trey Lance, his record dropped significantly. So we know that Jimmy G is pretty good. I think he has a great release. He can make really quick decisions, but I think kind of like a game manager, I don't think he's the guy to necessarily ever take over games. He's only done that maybe a handful of times with the 49ers. The other knock on Jimmy G, he's been hurt a lot, which we've kind of talked about, and then Jimmy is kind of almost basically due for a one bad pass per game, and you're like, what was he thinking? But then the great thing is that he'll bounce back from that and then make like 5 great plays in a row. And you're like, okay, so he does have that mentality of the quarterback being like, I'll forget about that pick and just get back to what I'm doing. Do I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a franchise guy? No, but I think he's a great solution for a team that's looking for maybe like a 2 years where if you're competitive, I think he'll win you games, but you want to develop that younger guy who has a lot more potential. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is very limited in what he can do, but he's good. So what will the 49ers, they're going to have a checklist of basically what they're going to be looking for in terms of like a trade partner. So ideally, I think when you look at the 49ers, they're going to look for a team in the AFC. They're going to look for a team that has an abundance of draft picks because the Niners need them after giving away a bunch of picks for Trey Lance. Looking for a team that clearly needs a quarterback next season, has cap room, and I think is actually a team that's ready to win. I don't think many teams are going to start fresh with a Jimmy Garoppolo. So, who are the teams that meet some or all of that criteria? Well, The first team that came to mind, and this will be the third likeliest team, I think, to acquire Jimmy Garoppolo, is going to be the Washington football team. Washington football team traditionally hasn't been afraid to trade for that veteran guy, like Alex Smith when they acquired him from Kansas City. Now, here's the thing. When we look back at that 49ers checklist, they're an NFC team, which is a huge thing. You rarely, if ever, see quarterbacks get traded within the conference. Normally, it's always NFC to AFC or AFC to NFC. So, for example, Sam Darnold from the Jets, AFC, to the Panthers, NFC. Carson Wentz, NFC Eagles, AFC Colts. Alex Smith that time, AFC Chiefs, NFC football team. So, very rare, but I mean, it's not out of the question. The last one that I can think of that was somewhat significant was Ryan Tannehill from the Dolphins to the Titans, and even that was Tannehill was almost out of the league at that point. But back to Washington. So they're an NFC team, which is not good, but they do have cap room going into next year. Are they quarterback needy? That's debatable. You know, you have Taylor Heineke, who's played quite well. Are they ready to win? I think they're very darn close to it. They have a great defense. Of course, their best player, Chase Young, is hurt and out for the year. But I think they're a team that, with their cap room, next season, they're a team that could win. Their division isn't great. The Giants aren't good. The Eagles are okay. And the Cowboys, I think, might be a little bit overrated because they don't play in the best division. Now, the other thing, too, the draft picks. The Washington basically have all of their own draft picks in the upcoming draft. So, you know, they don't have an abundance of them, but they have a good amount. Ultimately, do I think the Niners would trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the Washington football team? I think they wouldn't mind doing that. I just don't think Washington would be interested at the end of the day. I don't know if Garoppolo's an upgrade over Heineke. I don't know if they want to give up draft capital for that. If anything, they might just try and look for like a younger guy in the first round. Looks like in 2022, there'll be a number of quarterbacks who are going to go in that middle of the first round area. So I think Washington would probably go that route. The second team that I thought of, this is going to be an interesting one. It might shock some people. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers. AFC, check that box. Are they quarterback needy? They sure as hell are if Ben Roethlisberger retires, which it's looking like he should because he ain't looking good this year. Do they have cap room? They do have cap room, and they'll gain an extra 10, 11 million if Ben Roethlisberger retires. Are they ready to win? Absolutely. They have a great defense in Pittsburgh. You know, a lot of their better players are kind of in and out of the lineup, but they have some good weapons on offense. Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth at tight end. Of course, Chase Claypool at wide receiver. I think Pittsburgh could be a team that could actually go really far with Garoppolo if they can build up that offensive line and then maybe get one more weapon. I think Jimmy G could go in there and play pretty darn good football. Do I think he'll go there? Probably not. I just don't know with like Pittsburgh. With Pittsburgh, I think of like big, strong-arm quarterbacks. You know, there's a lot of games where the weather's not great. You play against Cleveland and Cincinnati and Baltimore, and these are all outdoor stadiums, and you know the weather's never that great. I think it's it's possible, but I don't think it's most likely. Here's the thing with the Steelers, though, is they have some draft picks, but not a lot. They're missing a couple of their picks that they've traded away. So, you know, the 49ers, I think it's a possibility, but I don't think it's the most likely. So that leads us to the number one option, who I think we could trade Jimmy Garoppolo to, and who would actually really want him. And I think it would be a great situation. And basically, I would bet he gets traded to this team over getting traded to any other team. Going to be the Denver Broncos. I think Jimmy Garoppolo does end up getting traded to the Denver Broncos. Look, let's talk about that checklist again. AFC, bam. Cap room, they got it. Quarterback needy, they only have Drew Lock on the roster next year under contract, and he's just been benched for an injured Teddy Bridgewater. Draft picks, they got a whole bunch of them. They got all their own picks, basically. They have an extra second-round pick, an extra third-round pick, and an extra fifth-round pick. Are they ready to win? I think they're ready to play pretty darn good football. But I think with Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going into a great situation because think about it with the Broncos. If you put Jimmy in Denver, Javonte Williams at running back, Noah Fant at tight end, and then you have Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler at wide receiver. So he's got plenty of weapons. Offensive line is pretty good. I think that's where they can maybe add one or two guys to the offensive line, and they'll still have quite a lot of picks left, which they can do that. And then if they can add a couple more guys to their defense, their head coach Vic Fangio, who I loved in San Francisco, has that defense playing pretty good ball. They just need to maybe add a couple more guys. Maybe Bradley Chubb kind of resurrects his career. Surtain's looking pretty good. They got Justin Simmons. So the defense is pretty solid with a great defensive coach. They got a ton of weapons on offense. If they can go get Jimmy Garoppolo, add maybe one or two guys to the offensive line, and I think they could still be in a position where in their first round pick that they have, maybe they add a young quarterback, and then, maybe that they develop him for a year or two behind Jimmy G. But I think it's the team that makes the most sense. It's the team that, the Niners and the Broncos in very recent years have a lot of history of trading with them. Adam Peters, our VP of player personnel, came from Denver. It's the one that it's the most obvious choice. I can't unless I'm, there's another team right in front of my face who I'm not seeing. I think he's going to be going to Denver. I would bet the money on Garoppolo. Well, in my opinion, what we would get as of right now, if I had to guess, I would say we would get the Broncos maybe early third round pick, whichever pick ends up being earlier between their own one or the Rams one. And then I think we would get whichever fifth round pick is later, whether it's their own or the other team fifth round pick that they have. So I think we'd ultimately get a third and a fifth. Maybe we would throw them back a seventh round pick. But that would be my guess right now for what we would get from Denver. That would leave Denver with their first round pick. They still have 2 seconds. They still have a third, fourth, and a fifth. So they're looking good still, in terms of draft picks. They got a good veteran quarterback who can come in and win, help develop the young guy, and then he comes in and they have a young nucleus of weapons around him. Now, here's the one caveat. The Niners could get more for Garoppolo. And here's how they get more for him. Is if Jimmy G keeps playing really good football the rest of this season, and we go and maybe win a couple of games in the playoffs. Do I think we're going to the Super Bowl this year? Definitely not. Not with Josh Norman at cornerback. But, it's definitely a chance where I think that if he plays good football, I think we could get maybe a late second. Like whichever second round pick the Broncos have, which is a little later, I think we would get that for Garoppolo. And that would be the maximum I could see, just because he does carry a big price tag. Now, I do think that if wherever he gets traded to, they'll restructure a contract or what have you. I think that's a possibility. But at the end of the day, I think Jimmy will want to go to a team where he'll have a starting opportunity. I don't think he'll want to go to a team like people would throw out, the Jets make a lot of sense because, their offensive coordinator was on the Niners staff. But it's like, that's the Zach Wilson show for at least a couple of years. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. He'll just ride the bench. And I don't think a team's going to give up a second or third round pick for a guy who's just going to be on the bench. So that's what I think. I think he's going to Denver. I think the other options, Pittsburgh and Washington, are possible. I don't think that they're likely. I think Denver is the slam dunk. But yeah, I really want to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think we'll get for Jimmy Garoppolo, or where do you think he's going to go, and how do you think he'll do there? So I really appreciate you guys checking out the video. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. It really helps out the channel, and I notice it all. And we're going to have a video coming out very soon, maybe the next couple of days, where we're previewing the 49ers at the Seahawks. And I will be doing the stream for that game, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. So come back, check it out. And you know what, guys? At this point, all there is left to say is I'm going to catch you all on the flip side.